Good afternoon. National City Christian Church welcomes our guests and all of our virtual listeners to our weekly recital series. If you've never been here before, you'll notice that there are two large organs in this sanctuary, one in the front and one in the back. The two organs can function completely independent of one another, but in practice they are usually played as a single instrument, with the sound of nearly 7,000 pipes surrounding you. We think you'll be amazed by the wonderful instrument that you'll hear today. In addition to enjoying the wonderful music today, we invite you to check out the organ for yourself. Feel free to come up to the console after the performance to learn more about this magnificent instrument. There are also some displays at the back of the sanctuary, chock full of interesting information about this organ and about how pipe organs work. This series is completely self-sustaining and depends on financial gifts from people like you. If you are able, we encourage you to make a donation by placing your cash or check in one of the collection plates at the front and rear of the sanctuary. If you would like us to keep you informed of future concerts and events, please write your name and email address on a piece of paper and give it to one of the greeters. Today we are delighted to be welcoming back organist Jacob Reed. Mr. Reed studied organ with Thomas Murray at Yale University and is currently a PhD student in music history and theory at the University of Chicago, where he is an organ scholar at Rockefeller Memorial Chapel. Today he will be playing works by Fanny, Mendelssohn, Hensel, Mozart, and Bach. Please join me in welcoming Jacob Reed.
Thank you. Today I'm delighted to present three pieces that are in my favorite genre of pieces for the organ, which is to say pieces that are not actually really for the organ. And there are three different origin stories for them, and they're all for three very different kinds of instrument originally. What you just heard is a postludium by Fanny Hensel that she wrote for her own wedding. She went from Fanny Mendelssohn to Fanny Hensel, almost in the process of writing this piece. It's a little bit unusual to write music for your own wedding, of course, and she actually ended up performing it too. She had originally intended to write a prelude, and her brother, the composer Felix Mendelssohn, was supposed to write the postlude, and he was also supposed to perform it. Unfortunately, he was traveling in England, and he broke his leg, and they only received news that he wasn't going to be able to take the ship home the night before. So that piece was written more or less overnight the night before the composer's wedding. It's a miracle that it's as wonderfully polished and well thought out as it is. The upshot of that is this is back before electricity, and you couldn't run an organ without someone pumping it. So she probably wrote this piece on a pedal piano, and indeed some of the way it's written looks a little bit like piano music. Also, Hensel, as a woman, was unlikely to be given very much access to organs in general, so she probably wrote most of her organ music at the piano like that. So a piano piece for the organ. The next piece we're going to hear is one of three pieces by Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart that is written not for organ, but it's always played by organists. The original instrument it's written for is a mechanical clock. Now, I know that there's a kind of an image of Mozart that associates him with things like chocolates and also maybe music boxes or that kind of toy thing. The other two pieces that he wrote for the mechanical clock are very counter to that image. They're extremely dramatic, minor key, very intense pieces. This one actually does sometimes sound a little bit like a music box, but there are moments in the middle of it when you realize that he's thinking through some quite sophisticated musical issues. I don't know if it's in your program, but the Kirche number of this piece is 616. If you happen to be a Mozart fan, you might know that the last Kirche number is 626, which is to say this is 10 pieces before he died at the age of 35. And so this is a Mozart that is concerned with writing things like the Requiem and the Magic Flute. He is interested in the arcane music of the past and also perhaps has thoughts of his incoming death, although we can't be sure about that. So even though this piece may sound a little bit kind of cheery and music box-like, it's also got some undertones of that. Please enjoy. Oh, I left it on, I guess. So we've had a piece that was originally written for probably piano with pedals, and a piece written for a mechanical clock. And now, as you can see in your program, this is a piece by Antonio Vivaldi that was arranged by J.S. Bach. Vivaldi was a violinist, and this is indeed a piece for violin and string orchestra. Now, if classical music is, let's say it's a high school, then the organists are definitely the nerds, and the violinists are the jocks, to be honest. And if any composer has a nerd stereotype associated with him, it's J.S. Bach, right? And honestly, I would say that Vivaldi is among those most deserving of being called a jock. The funny thing is that Bach, by all accounts, really, really liked Vivaldi. He arranged 9 of his violin concertos for solo harpsichord, for 2 harpsichords, for organ, and even for 4 harpsichords and string orchestras. He was a huge Vivaldi fan, and his encounter with Vivaldi's music really changed his own. So I guess you could say it's something like, nerd, jock envy going on there. And you can hear this in this music. This is among, even by Vivaldi standards, you may think of Vivaldi as, think of the Vivaldi of the summer from the Four Seasons, just really going at his violin, playing as fast as he possibly can, just really trying to impress you. This is another piece that's sort of in that vein, but without the poetry and the Four Seasons to go with it. It's kind of just playing for the sake of playing. It's really very fun in that way. It's a very athletic kind of piece. And you can tell that Bach kind of enjoyed the exercise, trying to bring that to the organ, all these things that are very natural on the violin, but maybe not so natural on the organ. It's a chance for himself, the nerd, to show off a little bit. So for instance, you'll hear passages of, for instance, there are repeated notes that sound to me like imitating bird calls, something like it shows up in the Fourth Season. That makes all sorts of sense on the violin where you just move your bow back and forth. On the organ, you have to do all sorts of crazy things with your fingers to make sure that it actually repeats. And so you get lots of things like that. To cap it all off, in each of the 2 outer movements, so there are 3 movements of this piece, a fast one, a slow one, and then another fast one. So in each of the fast movements, there is a long cadenza, a long violin solo that goes even more kind of, how to say it, kind of jock-brained, kind of no thinking, just pure playing for minutes on end. These cadenzas are attributed to Vivaldi, but they're probably written by some German violinist who Bach got a copy from, and he transcribes them like note for note. So again, this is Bach trying his absolute best to imitate exactly what a sort of meat-headed, you can almost think of them as like a hard rock guitarist, like AC/DC or something like that, just trying to play as fast as they possibly can on the violin. Him trying to imitate that effect on the organ, and that happens at the end of the first movement and the end of the third movement. It'll be very obvious. I'll be only playing with my right hand, basically, and that's the violinist. At the same time, jocks have feelings too. And there is a slow movement of this piece that's really beautiful. It's written in the style of a recitativo, which is to say, like an opera scene where they're trying to send the action forward a little bit. So there's a great depth of feeling in the slow movement as well as the kind of vivid athleticism of the outer ones. Enjoy.